Hi everyone, thanks for joining. We're going to go ahead and get started here in just another minute or so. We're going to give some more time for people to jump on. All right, let's go ahead and get started here. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, depending on where you're located. Really appreciate you all taking the time to join us for our webinar today, How to Conduct More Efficient Examinations with EnCase Forensic 8.06. My name is David Grosskopf, and I'll be one of your hosts for the webinar. I'm a marketing program manager here at OpenText. I've been with Guidance Software and now OpenText for about 3 years, focused on the forensic products, both Tableau and EnCase Forensic. Today I'm happy to be joined by two EnCase subject matter experts, Harp Thukral and Lisa Stewart. I'll allow both of them to introduce themselves in just a minute. But first, let's go ahead and take a closer look at what we'll be covering today. So following a few quick housekeeping reminders, Harp is briefly going to touch base on EnCase Forensic 8 as a whole, and then he will dive into a review of the most recent release, EnCase Forensic 8.06. We will then play a pre-recorded product demo of Lisa walking through some 8.06 new features, specifically focusing on the indexing and index searching. After the demo, Lisa is going to provide a quick recap, highlighting some tips and tricks and a training. And then Harp is going to provide a preview of what's coming next in EnCase Forensic. Following that, we're going to do a Q&A session, and we'll get to as many of your questions as time is going to allow us. So as I mentioned, just a couple housekeeping reminders. We have a Q&A at the end. Please submit any questions for the Q&A through the chat window of the webinar. It's available at the bottom of your screen. At the bottom, there is also a resources widget where you can download our current product briefs for both EnCase Forensic and Tableau. We have a webinar survey that we would ask everyone to please complete. It provides us with product feedback, webinar feedback, and it's also going to be how you qualify for your chance to win the free training course. We'll announce the training course winner in the days following the webinar, probably sometime next week. I want to remind anybody that if you're having any type of technical issues during the webinar, that there is an On24 support widget at the bottom, as well as we are recording this webinar, and we will be posting it on demand as well as emailing all attendees, so you can always access the on-demand course and reference it later at any time that's convenient to you. If you have any additional questions for us following the webinar, you can always visit our website or email us at experts@guyd.com or call us via phone at 626-229-9191. So as I mentioned, today I'm lucky to be joined by two extremely knowledgeable EnCase experts, Harp and Lisa. Harp is our product manager for EnCase, and Lisa is a Senior EnCase Instructor. Lisa, with that, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit more?
Yes, my pleasure. Hi, I'm Lisa Stewart. I've been with Guidance Software / OpenText for almost 15 years. Actually, next week it'll be 15 years. Prior to being with Guidance Software, I worked for the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Georgia, where I coordinated the Seized Computer Evidence Recovery Specialist training, and I did that for about 17 years. So I guess you could say I've been around here for a long time. I currently am responsible for some of our more basic classes. I coordinate and manage the course curriculum for our Foundations in Digital Forensics and the EnCase certification prep training courses, and have had my hand in just about every training course we have here for the last 15 years. So it is my pleasure to join you guys today. I'm joined also by my colleague Harp.
Hi everyone, my name is Harp Thukral and I'm the Product Manager for EnCase Forensic. I have about 15 years of experience in technology. My role is to concentrate on listening to your feedback, what problems you face on a daily basis, and what we can do to take your feedback and build it into EnCase to solve your problems. Let's do a quick overview of EnCase 8 as a platform. For those of you who are new to EnCase 8 but are on older versions of EnCase, it is still based on the same EnCase platform you know and like. The best way I can describe EnCase version 8 is really that version 6 and 7 had a child. It is designed for both version 6 and 7 examiners, and version 7 cases and end scripts will work for you without a problem. Now, if you're still on version 6 and you have some custom end scripts you have written, we are happy to help you migrate those to version 8. It's not a large effort, and we have a team which is dedicated in getting those done for you. The key goals which we concentrated on when we started working on EnCase 8 as a platform were really your feedback, the speed of the investigation, most of the tasks which can be solved with 2 clicks or less, improved UI and workflow. This is what EnCase 8 as software looks like today. Now, some key features which we have added to EnCase 8, other than the ones which you already know about, are Project Wick integration. You can receive hash set of images and also submit back images to help out other investigators when you're doing child exploitation cases. Another cool thing which we've added is pathways. These are really custom workflows which you can define as a step-by-step way of solving a case, and you can create your own or use a predefined one. Really great for junior investigators. Along with that, we've added customized reporting, multicolored bookmarks, persistent blue checks, and finally I want to add that we support 26,000 different mobile device types, which include tablets, drones, etc., which can be acquired as part of EnCase 8 without having to purchase anything extra. Now let's continue talking about 806. The problems we were trying to solve with 806 really were indexing, and particularly in indexing when it comes to indexing speed, when it comes to large amount of data. The ability to parallelize and use multiple cores of a processor, merging of large index data, and the lack of compatibility of non-English word breakers in Windows 10. And finally, the usability. Lots of feedback on how hard it was on the eyes to stare at EnCase for hours. Here's what we did to solve the problem. We invested in a brand new industry standard indexing engine called Lucene. It's used by all major organizations. We modified it heavily to make it work with a digital forensic workspace. It has a new query syntax which most people are going to find themselves comfortable with, as you will see in the demo. It processes the evidence a lot faster. As an example, we tried Wikipedia, and we found that we were 8 times faster than previous versions of EnCase. The biggest impact you will see is when you're doing large amounts of data. It uses the processors better by utilizing all cores and is much more scalable. It takes a lot less amount of RAM, and also the index size written to disk is much smaller. In addition to that, you can now index and query in 20 different languages, as you can see listed here. These are specialized analyzers which understand the native language and help break the words in a much more efficient manner. From a usability standpoint, you will notice that we've worked on improving the contrast of the tables with new colors, easy to read fonts, and overall workflow is improved. And you'll see that in the demo, which is upcoming. We've also dedicated a lot of time in taking care of bug reports from customers like yourself. So that's a brief overview of what we've done in 806 as a platform. With that, I'll pass it on to you, Dave.
Thanks for that, Harp. So now we're going to go ahead and play the recording that Lisa put together, walking through a demo of the product 806. I would like to remind people to continue to submit your questions through the chat window for the Q&A at the end. We've already received some really great questions here, so definitely keep those coming. We appreciate it. And another reminder here for the demo, please make sure that your computer volume is turned all the way up in order to hear the recording's audio. And again, if you do have any issues with the webinar, hearing us or seeing what's on the screen, the webinar will be made on demand after, so no worries, you'll definitely be able to watch it at your convenience. With that, we'll go ahead and play this recording and we'll jump back on after to talk more.
Hi there, my name is Lisa Stewart. I am here to talk with you about how to conduct more efficient examinations with EnCase Forensic 8.06. In this presentation, we will concentrate on index searching. There are 3 types of searching that are available within EnCase. There is raw searching. Raw searching is conducted on non-indexed case data. It is typically used during triage of a computer system prior to imaging or seizure to determine if information exists to warrant the seizure or imaging of that computer system. There is also tag-related searching. This involves searching for items flagged with user-defined tags. So this is after users have already begun their investigation or their examination on the media. Files or objects may be tagged in order to conduct more research on later or to save for reporting purposes. Our focus will be on index searching, and index searching involves searching for terms within a generated index. I have already generated the index, and this is performed through evidence processor tasks. I would like to show you where those tasks are performed and describe to you a little bit about what those tasks are, and to show you the options for the index search. Following that, we will talk about some examples of index searching that you may conduct. First, let's look at the evidence processor. Within the evidence processor, the module that causes the index to be created is the index text and metadata module. The options that exist within this module include the ability to index slack and unallocated space. Slack space is that data that resides between the end of the file and the end of the storage area or cluster. Unallocated space on the drive is consisting of areas that are clusters that are not allocated to a file or a folder on the volume. They may still contain data. Depending on the size of your drive and the number of files you have and the amount of unallocated space you have, choosing these options may take quite a while. For that reason, I chose not to pick these options for our demonstration today. So you will notice that index slack and unallocated on your screen reads false. The other set of processing options includes selecting a language analyzer. One or more language analyzers may be selected. The one used within this example is English. Other processing options exist that include tasks that are usually performed at the beginning of every case. Several of those that will affect our presentation today include Find Email. Find Email will enable the location and processing of email and will also allow the indexing of that email so that we can find email data while we are conducting index searches. We will see that shortly. In order to conduct index queries, we will go to a tab entitled Indexed Items. Before we go there, though, just be aware that EnCase indexes evidence in EnCase version 8.06 using an implementation of the Lucene index and search technology. The index may be searched using standard Lucene query syntax and most Lucene search operators and terms. More information may be gained from the Apache Lucene project data at the URL documented within the user guide. Prior to 8.06, another background indexing process was used. Regardless of which version of EnCase you are dealing with, searches within an index are not case sensitive by default, and the index includes indexing content and metadata of objects on the drive. So searches are not case sensitive by default, and metadata as well as content is indexed. We will see examples of that within our examples that we will present. So within the scenario for this evidence file, we have multiple allegations. This is an internal investigation into the activities of one Norm Peterson. It is alleged that Norm Peterson misused his credit card belonging to the organization and procured intellectual property and sold that intellectual property to another individual. You will see other individual names within our data that we will find through our index searching. You will also see the term OWAT. OWAT is the intellectual property that represents computer code created for a government entity that was allegedly stolen by Norm Peterson. In order to begin this, we will go to the Index Items tab. So I have an Indexed Items tab on my screen. If you do not have that tab, as you are doing this on your own, you can go up to View and select Indexed Items. In order to conduct an index search, where my cursor is blinking is where we need to type in terms or other information that we want to search for. We'll start with a term. So keeping with our scenario, there was a rumor that Norm Peterson used company funds to travel to Antigua and used the government travel agent, or excuse me, the organizational travel agent in order to accomplish that task. So I'm going to type in Antigua. And as I type in Antigua and select Enter, you will notice that at the bottom of that left-hand side of the screen, we are given options as to what we actually want to search for. I did not pick any of the options. I just picked Enter after I've typed in my term. So essentially, I picked the first option, I guess. So there are several emails that are listed here relating to Antigua. So the first thing I need to point out is that Norm Peterson cites his soon-to-be wife, Rebecca, and that he will bring OWAT for someone to run and verify. So that someone is Cliff Caven that is going to run and verify that information. Okay. So let's look for some other things. So I'm going to scroll up through this list of data. And as I scrolled up, I can see an email called Reply to Discussion, and it does indicate that Rebecca is giving an excuse for her departure from work. So we have established that Norm and Rebecca are together and that Norm used the company travel agent to schedule his flight. So let's do a search for Rebecca and see what else we get. So I'm going to erase Antigua from the search section and type in Rebecca. So as I scroll around, I see an email from Rebecca to Norm that contains a reply from Norm to Rebecca that Norm hacked Burns's computer and is sending a remote assistance file to gain access to the computer. So this is how, as we do more investigation, Norm Peterson acquired the OWAT code. I then scroll down to another email called Reply to the Orlando Conference, and point out that this email documents that multiple expense reports were being used. The one that Santini signed off on is an inexpensive one. The other one also includes travel that was made to Orlando by Norm and Beck. So we do have a lot of information relating to the travel expense fraud. So let's show some other methodologies that you can use for searching. So you can search for date ranges, and you can search for files with a particular logical size. So let me demonstrate that to you. So I will clear out the Rebecca phrase in the search window and enter the phrase that will involve the date search. So here is the phrase, last underscore written, followed by a colon and a space, and there's the date range, month, day, year, 4-digit month, 4-digit year, 2-digit month, 2-digit day. The last underscore written was acquired from the field drop-down, so I just clicked on last written. And we should have files that have the last written date between the 24th of June and the 5th of July. And we should be able to find some emails that relate to that, or even some images relating to his participation in NASCAR racing within Daytona. If I wanted to find files with a certain logical size, what I would do is clear out that area once again. And use the logical size field. So I used 18 million to 100 million. And I'm able to see quite a few videos. 48 Pitting, Antigua Rainforest Company Zipline. And we could notice that 48 Pitting has a date and time, last written July the 3rd, 2010. And that is actually a video of a NASCAR race. I'm going to sort by logical size and scroll down. Actually, I don't need to scroll down. I wanted to find a file that was abnormally large, and I think I found it. First of all, there's a couple here. Notice there's one called OWAT-code. Notice its logical size. And notice there's another called jolly.jpg. Both of these files are the same logical size. That doesn't mean they're the same, but we could look at the hash value and determine if the hash values are the same. That's a presentation for another time. So if I were to look at the contents of jolly.jpg, first of all, it does not appear to be an image. It does appear to have a lot of different data, and it does appear to be abnormally large. JPEG files are not normally this large. They are inherently compressed by definition. So again, that may be a topic for another presentation. So some of the other operators that you may have access to is an asterisk. An asterisk is a wildcard. It represents a series of characters. So if I was looking for a term and I wasn't sure what information that term had within it, I could use the asterisk. I can use the asterisk before and after another character as I use an index search. I can also use a question mark to represent a single character position. So there are wildcards within our index searching capabilities. There are also fuzzy searches. The tilde acts as a fuzzy search character. So you could type in, for example, file tilde, and that would return to you the word mile, the word pile, or the word files. So that does have a lot of variability within it. Index searching, a wonderful tool for you to use. EnCase 8.06 has sped up the searching, made it more efficient. We have now an industry standard methodology in the background of using index searching, and index searching can be a wonderful tool for you to use. It does cost you a little bit of time on the front end, but there's certain things that you would do at the beginning of every case, and this can be one of those things. That will enable the examination that you perform to be much more efficient, give you better results.
All right, so that is our indexing process and some information, hopefully, that gives you an update from previous versions of EnCase. Of course, as we said in the video, we use the Lucene indexing engine now, which is quite the industry standard and quite well used out in the world these days. Prior to actually doing the indexing, one of the things that we recommend as a best practice to going along with the theme of making your investigations and examinations more effective with the current versions of EnCase is to do a look-see at the data in the physical drive and see if the logical volumes add up to the size of the physical drive, as well as to check the time zone of the evidence and then set it within EnCase or within your computer system, depending on what your objectives are. Don't forget the availability of the pathways, which is a great workflow to enable you to use EnCase without perhaps a lot of detailed use of EnCase. We obviously do suggest that in order to educate yourself more on EnCase, that you visit us in one of our training facilities or on demand or live online for one of our training courses. We have so many offerings these days. We offer our foundations and building courses, which is level 1 and level 2, in every facility live, as well as at least once a month on vClass in every facility. So we hope that you guys join us for one of those classes and let us know what we can do to help you make your examinations better for you. Harp?
Thank you, Lisa. So let's talk about what's coming in EnCase. I see quite a few questions related to that, I think, which will answer some of the questions for everyone. Let's go to the next slide if possible. Okay, so these are the themes which we are looking at. We're going to work on encryption first. And encryption being I saw a lot of questions when it comes to BitLocker. So yes, you will have support for BitLocker XDS AES on Windows 10 in the coming version, which is actually coming at the end of this month, or early May actually, I should say. Along with that, we are doing file system updates on APFS support. So you will also see APFS support included in that as well. that should answer some of the Mac-related questions, which I kind of saw as part of while the recording was playing. Along with that, we are obviously listening to a lot of you in terms of UI and customer bugs. On top of that, I want to add is that what we're doing is we are also localizing EnCase in about 14 different languages to start off with. So now you'll be able to use EnCase in your own language. If you have investigators, let's say in German or Chinese or Japanese as an example, you'll be able to use EnCase in that specific language. On top of that, obviously our goal is to constantly update artifacts when it comes to internet browsing or social media artifacts. Also working on some connectors like Dropbox, your Google Drives, so you'll be able to extract data. And finally, I want to add is that customer feedback is my top priority as product manager, and I want to hear any any problems or any suggestions you have for me. My email address is actually listed here on this page. You can see it on the top right-hand side corner, hthukral@opentext.com. Feel free to email me with any questions or concerns you have. We'll try to answer as many questions we can as part of the session. With that, I'll hand it back to you, Dave.
Thanks, Harp. So again, just a little bit behind here on the slides, but here's what's to come in EnCase for the roadmap. So as Harp mentioned, 8.07 releasing probably early May, and then another release, 8.08, happening sometime in 2018, but to be determined there. With that, that brings us to the conclusion of the content of our webinar. Now I definitely want to open it up for questions and answers, and we have tons and tons of questions coming in through the chat here. So we'll do our best to get to as many questions that are appropriate to answer to the masses. If there's anything we don't get to, we'll be sure to continue following up post-webinar to make sure your questions get answered. But if for any reason, your question goes unanswered, again, our contact information is at the bottom of the page here, so feel free to reach out to us anytime, or as Harp mentioned, you can email him directly. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into some questions. One here that I'm seeing is, what is signature analysis?
Okay, signature analysis is the process of comparing the header to the extension of the file and using the file types table within EnCase to determine the true identity of the file. The evidence processor allows you to run signature analysis as well as outside of the evidence processor, so you can actually do either. I've had a couple of questions about that and would like to emphasize that any of you guys that do image analysis, this is a very crucial thing to run to make sure that you are seeing all of the images in your gallery view. So just make sure you run that process, especially if you're doing image analysis.
Perfect. Thanks, Lisa.
Sure.
I see another one here really quick. Directed towards a comment that Harp made earlier. Harp said 806 has lower memory requirements. What is the new one? Harp, do you think you could address that?
So low memory requirements is, what we're finding is that most of our indexing was linear at that point. So, once you hit a certain number, like for example, we recognize, I believe it was like you have 4 gigabytes and it would be like 10 million unique words, and we would start to slow down. But now, since we're utilizing multiple cores, we find that the memory usage is a lot less when it comes to RAM, and things seem to go faster. Hopefully that helps answers. And obviously, it's going to depend on entirely what type of data you have, how much of it is, and whether it's a SSD, it's something else. It's going to depend on your environment. There's a lot of moving variables there.
Lisa, it sounds like you maybe had one you wanted to address.
Yes, we've had a lot of questions about Mac support. APFS is the newest file system that comes with the High Sierra operating system with the Mac, and APFS support is coming in a version in May. So that should be it's on the drawing board, and it should be rolled out sometime in May. As far as other questions that have been asked relating to what can we run EnCase to look at a Mac, etc. EnCase does not run on a Mac. However, if you have an evidence file, if you've grabbed an image, which you can grab an image of a physical device with EnCase, even if that physical device contains Mac data, once you grab the evidence file, you can analyze any HFS Plus volume or any other volume that may be on a Mac as well. So EnCase has many Enscripts and many features incorporated into the core product that will enable examinations of Macs. And we do have a 4-day class on Mac examination if that's something anyone is interested in. My colleague Simon Key is currently working on working with our developers in incorporating APFS information into that course. So that will be coming as soon as possible. I also see a question on, can you set conditions after the initial index search to further refine results? That is a marvelous technique and one of our best practices that we recommend. If you have, after you've indexed, you can use conditions, which is similar to Windows Explorer search capability, to search for metadata within file systems that you analyze. So that is a wonderful question and a wonderful technique to use.
Great. I see another one here. Can I re-index with a different language after my first indexing of the data? Let's say I found a language in the results, and I need to re-index with that language to conduct my analysis. Harp, can you take that one?
Yes, I believe you can do that. So if you, by default, I want to stress that when you use a default analyzer, it's going to actually attempt to analyze all languages. I know it says English, but it's really meant for all of them, all languages by default. So if you don't see your language listed, does not mean EnCase does not support it. But let's say you did find, let's say, a specific type of text, let's say Chinese as an example, and you want to go further analyze it with a specialized analyzer, you have the capability to go re-index it with another language. Just one thing to know is that the more analyzers you select, you're essentially asking the EnCase to index it 2 times in a row, so it's going to take 2 times the time it's going to take to actually index. So, so that's something you want to know. Okay.
Great. Thanks, Harp. Anything else that you guys see that you want to address while I'm looking through some other questions here?
Yeah, I kind of saw one with, can you talk a little bit about the mobile piece of it? And yes, we do have a list of what mobile devices we support and what drones and what tablets, but essentially what you want to know is most of the major platforms you can think of, which is Apple, Android, to some extent now, if you want to call BlackBerry, but they've switched over to Android, as we all know. And then we have the feature phones. So almost all of them are supported to kind of pull in and do some work. The best way to describe the combination between Endpoint Investigator Forensic and Mobile Investigator is that you acquire the data all in EnCase itself, and then if you wanted to kind of categorize the data and separate it for you, that's where you use Mobile Investigator. Hopefully that helps answer the question. Okay. Let's see, what other questions can we pick up? So I see a question, is there anything we need to order to take advantage of Multicore, or is it automatic? It's automatic. You don't need to do anything for you to work. It automatically takes advantages of it. It recognizes and does that. So another one which I can quickly handle here is, I saw that if IP addresses change, is there a way to track? Upcoming in the next release, which is due early May, we have volume shadow copy, which is built in, which is really great. You're going to be able to see the volume shadow copies which exist in the evidence, select it, you can apply conditions to it and just get a differential. You can get a full volume, and that will contain information about IP address change or what files were deleted or anything else new was added. So that's going to be a core feature of EnCase going forward. As you will see, we always have the method of taking existing scripts and making it part of core features, and that's what we are doing next for that. Okay.
Somebody also asked about indexing zip files and PDFs. Certain kinds of PDFs are indexed within our evidence processor, and zip files are also done within the evidence processor. So you do have access to those items. Another question that I see here, hi Dwayne Gregory, is it still recommended to use Windows 7 to process your evidence file? And the answer to that is we now have the ability to use just Windows 10. Since we have the language packs now installed within our evidence processor for the indexing that you can select, we're no longer restricted to not having the correct languages in order to deal with. So yes, that is available as well through Windows 10. Also, several people are asking about the Lucene language. In our user guide for EnCase 8.06, there is a link to the Apache Lucene project, or you can Google it, and you can see that way some more queries and so forth within our evidence processor as well. So you do have those items at your disposal. I see a question about zip files along those same lines. Can you configure a process to search for zip files and extract them and their nested zip files? And the answer is the evidence processor does that. So if you mount compound files with the evidence processor, it will go down 15 levels and mount zips within zips within zips within zips down 15 levels. I guess if you've got more than 15 levels, you've got more problems than you need to worry about. So probably not that many levels are going to be available to you, hopefully. The N-scripts, I've responded to several people. If you come to our training classes, you do get the N-scripts. And that is one great advantage of coming to our training classes. Otherwise, you should be able to get on our website and get certain N-scripts that have been posted there. So N-scripts are very valuable to EnCase, and you have the capability of using them.
I see a question about OCR. Does EnCase 8.06 not support OCR data? That is correct. Right now, we do not have the capability to do OCR in EnCase as a product, but we've already added that capability in our mobile investigator product, and you will see that follow very, very soon, actually. Not in the next release, but the release after that, OCR will be added to EnCase version 8.08, I believe. That's what we'll call it. Okay.
Perfect. Thanks, Harp. We have some time for a few more questions here. One question I see that we've been asked a lot recently since the acquisition of Guidance Software by OpenText is, has the development of EnCase been affected at all by the acquisition? And if anything's changed, what has? Harp, I know you like answering this one, so I'll let you go ahead and take it.
For sure. So as all of you know that we were acquired by OpenText, and actually things have improved quite a bit. We have a lot more resources, and our dev team has grown substantially. And hopefully you will start seeing the results of those. Meaning we'll have more constant updates, much faster turnaround time for some of the customer bugs which you guys are submitting, along with new development and new features which will help make your life easier. So yes, definitely more for the positive than anything else. Also, I see some for mobile devices. Can you extract some GPS data? Absolutely, we can. It depends on the device. Most Garmin watches and GPS models, including phones, is supported. So yes, we can extract GPS data. Can I index once time? Yes, you can index one time, multiple times. That's not a problem at all.
So we do have a question about media files. How come I can't view media files such as audio and video in the bookmarks? EnCase does not have an internal viewer for audio nor an internal sound program for video and an internal sound program for audio. What you can do is you can create a condition to get all the media files that you want, and you can actually use a external viewer to plug into EnCase in order to view the audio and listen to the video. You can also tag the items, and then you can use the external viewer for all of those items at once. So that is a way to do that.
So I see a bunch of questions about encryption. I want you guys to know that EnCase supports the most amount of encryption out there, and we intend on continuing that. In fact, the next release, as you saw, one of the main themes we had was encryption. So we will be supporting the latest version of BitLocker, McAfee, Semantic, PGP, Dell Data Protection, Vera, Checkpoint, a lot of those. So, encryption is a core feature of encryption of EnCase, and we intend to support the latest versions. With 807, you will see that almost all of them are up to date with all the versions. With that, good question. What about integration with other partners? So we are definitely looking at a lot of partners in terms of integration, and we obviously are moving in a direction where we can do everything ourselves, and we are happy to partner with people who have the strength, and that can be showcased with our integration with Project Vic and similar other partners, as you will see very, very shortly. In fact, we look out very actively on our App Central, which is where you can go and download those Enscripts from to see which ones are doing well and see if you can create a partnership or integrate with us on a much more on a core product. So that's always the case, and we are always open to suggestions. And as you know, you have my email. Feel free to email me. Okay, so another good one which I saw is the good software to use for academic purposes? Absolutely. In fact, that's a core responsibility which we have. We have a great academic program. So if you belong to a school, a university, or one of those training organizations, feel free to reach out to us, and we'll point you in the right direction as to what academic offering we have. And we want to make sure that EnCase is supported everywhere.
All right, there's a couple of questions about processing. If you can process part of your drive if you need to get some data quickly. What you can do is you can create a result set from some of the data inside your evidence file or evidence files, and then you can process the result set. That's not something that, at least in our classes, that we highlight, but it is a possibility, and it is something that you can do. You can also set a priority during the evidence processor for it to just process certain file types or files with a certain date range. So if it's something you need to have done quickly, you can do it.
So another one which I'm seeing quite a bit here is I know that some people here also use Endpoint Investigator, which essentially is the addition of SAFE. To use APFS, you do not need to have SAFE installed. EnCase by itself will do the job, so you do not need to add anything extra. Now, if you do have SAFE, great. It will do everything as it does today with the extended ability to take snapshots and collections remotely of an endpoint, including APFS machines, by the way.
There is a question about geolocation information. We do have an EnScript for processing GPS data from an image or from a video, and that EnScript, actually there's two EnScripts. One will port to Google Maps and one will port to Google Earth. So you can actually create a KML file to send to Google Earth, and that way you can see that information through whatever view you would like in Google Earth or through Google Maps. So thank you, Ken, for asking that question. Let's see.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions still coming in, so we really appreciate all of the feedback and questions you guys are asking. We'll try to take a couple more here. I know we're getting close to the top of the hour. So maybe one or two more, Harp and Lisa, and then we'll make sure we continue to follow up after the webinar with any questions we weren't able to get to.
Right. So I'll handle two more, which I see here. One is, will the safe searches from previous versions of indexing work in 806? That's a great question, and the answer is no. So if you have a case which you had done in 805 and you open it in 806, you're going to have to re-index that data. So that's something you want to know. But the great thing is that you can have multiple versions of EnCase installed, and as long as you have a dongle attached, either version can be launched, and you can work on it. So if you have a case in 805, you can still continue working with that one, or you can, re-index in 806 as a choice. The next one which I see is related to, has the safe changed? There is a new version of 806 release. That is correct. You will see a new release, and the release notes for the safe are attached to the safe install.
And Harp, you might have touched on this earlier, but can you just mention exactly why they would have to re-index from 805 to 806?
Absolutely. So as you know, we essentially did the task of taking a brand new indexing engine and integrate it. So it's like replacing the engine below. So it requires a different type of processing, and there is no converging of data from the same version to the older. Now what we can do is we can take the evidence and re-index it to make it look. Now the results that you're going to get are pretty much alike, maybe a lot more data, but that's the fact. Is because when you change something so big, it kind of makes you forced to do certain things, which is re-index data.
Perfect, thank you. Maybe one more question if you guys see anything.
So I see a bunch of questions about RAM recommendation for indexing, and truly it depends on the amount of data which you're processing. And I can give you a brief test which we did very recently. We took a very common desktop computer i7 processor with about 8 to 16 gigs of RAM. We tried both combinations, and we did Wikipedia, and we had spectacular results. So the faster processor you have, the more faster things are going to go. You build a farm, you're going to get much faster results than you would with a single individual machine. Again, that's the beauty of why we added Lucene, really.
Great. Well, thanks, Harp and Lisa. This was absolutely amazing. And again, thanks to all the attendees for submitting the questions. We'll continue to work on these. We've received over 150 questions, so as you can imagine, impossible to get to all of them now, but we'll do our best to respond in a timely manner to each and every one of them. Again, if you have any additional questions after this webinar, please submit them through our email or phone number that's listed on the screen here. And again, the webinar will be made available on demand for you to rewatch at your convenience, so watch for that email to come out. But I thank you all again for your time, and have a great rest of your day or evening. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.